Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Isolation Play. This is our second episode. I'm Alex Budish, and joined with me, as always, is my three co-hosts, Steven D'Agostino, Travis Hall, and Michael Schlossberg. Say what's up, guys.
What's going on?
Hey, everybody.
Yo.
Fun week so far. It's been a couple of days since our first episode launched, and we had a big piece of news, the first ever virtual NFL draft. And it was exciting, it was interesting, and at the same time, yet kind of boring. I will get to my thoughts on it in a minute because, frankly, I didn't have a lot to do with it because my team decided to not have any first-round draft picks for the next 437 years. I'll start with the New York Giants and Michael Schlossberg, earliest pick of the four teams that we all root for. Mike, what do you think of the draft, and what do you think of your pick?
All right, so we all know what I said on the last episode. I wanted them to take Simmons, get a defensive force in there, a guy who can rush the quarterback. But you know what? After going back, thinking about it a little bit, sleeping on it for a little bit, Andrew Thomas, this is a big, strong offensive lineman who's going to be able to protect the blind side of Daniel Jones. And what it takes to win in the National Football League is blocking on the offensive line. I think that's a tenet I've agreed upon my whole life. It's not just because I played the position growing up. It's because it's coming true. It's because in the first round, about 80% of first-round offensive linemen end up being consistent NFL starters. Defensive linemen, outside linebacker, edge types, as Simmons is, it's closer to about 50 to 60% where it ends up being successful players that go on to have long, prosperous careers. So overall, I like the pick in theory of getting an offensive tackle, getting a left tackle to go ahead and solidify Daniel Jones's blind side. You can argue all day about which one of the four offensive linemen you want to take if you're the New York Football Giants. But you know what? I don't know which guy is the best out of those. Well, it's going to take some time. Give it a couple of years. We'll see who plays where, what type of blocking they're able to do. But overall, I like the direction of the pick by Gettleman and Joe Judge.
Good take, Schlossberg. Seems like you had a little bit of time to think on it, obviously a night's sleep. Let's take a look back to your reaction as it happened live.
Oh, really? They took Andrew Thomas. Now, here's the thing. All day I had been hearing about Jedrick Wills and how he's a right tackle. I'm glad that they did not give you Jedrick Wills. I'm glad that they gave you Andrew Thomas, the other offensive tackle. Now, if you look at the Draft Network, a site that only does draft, he's the 12th rated prospect. Okay, so they really went down. You know what? With this left tackle scenario, I can finally stop hearing about the stupid calls to FAN, to Mad Dog Radio about the Giants not having an offensive line play. Andrew Thomas, I heard today while I was driving back from bouncing around here that he is a guy who's very underrated and he might be one of the steals of the draft. I don't know if it's true. Who knows?
Maybe not as well spoken as you are now, Schlossberg. Any initial thoughts from your reacts? The internet lives forever.
Well, I got to be honest. Andrew Thomas, as soon as I heard that, I thought about Dave Thomas and Wendy's. So I had to figure out, first of all, who the heck this guy was. I saw he played at Georgia. Similar size and dimensions to the other tackles they're talking about. You look at these left tackles, 6'5", 6'6", 310, 320. You want athletic guys. I don't necessarily need a guy who can jump out of a pool like the guy that Tampa Bay picked. I need a guy who's a good inline blocker, a guy who's got quick feet, ability to make some turn blocks, get the guy away from Daniel Jones, get in there, do some hat-on-hat blocking when you want to run to the left side with Barkley. So, yeah, overall, after I watched a little bit of video, read a little bit about this guy, Andrew Jones, that they picked, I realized he wasn't related to Dave Thomas, the Wendy's hamburger guy. And overall, solid pick, solid direction by Gettleman. And he kept this pick very close to the vest because you were hearing all day about Willis, the guy from Alabama, or the other tackle, I think Wirfs was his name, two similar names, similar guys. So overall, you got to like the direction of taking a left tackle, getting someone in there to protect for Daniel Jones.
I like it.
Free chicken nuggets today from Wendy's as well. So a big day for Wendy's all around the board.
Gotta love it. Free
drop from our social guy.
Yes, we could be looking for a new sponsor when we get him on the show too.
I'm trying my best, guys. I'm trying my best.
I like it. Travis, your Chargers. A lot of people thought Tua. We'll get your reaction on that, but I don't think anything sums it up better before we get your thoughts on your pick than your video from the live reaction last night.
With the sixth pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon.
I think your face pretty much sums it up there, Travis. What do you think?
Yeah, luckily I've had 12 hours to digest that pick, and I've already talked myself into the Herbert. I think, it's no secret I wanted Tua. A lot of beat writers and, mock drafters had the Chargers taken Tua. I was worried that it was a lot of smokescreen from the Dolphins. Really, it was complicated by Schloss's G-men taking Andrew Thomas. I think if they had taken Wirfs or Simmons like Schloss was advocating for, it's possible the Dolphins would have taken Andrew Thomas at 5 and Tua would have slipped to 6. But Herbert's someone who is, I think, the most polarizing guy at the top of the draft, just because among those first 4 quarterbacks picked, I think he has the highest upside, but also the highest bust potential. This is a guy who, if he had left Oregon after his junior year, probably would have been the first pick in the 2019 draft. A lot of people liked him better than Kyler Murray. So you're getting somebody who has the physical tools. He's a big 6'6". He played baseball, had a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. So on paper, he's everything you want. There's some consistency issues. For those of us who are familiar with Pac-12 football, wasn't really a standout in the Pac-12 during his senior year and didn't take the leap that he was hoping to have coming back. But like his upside, I think it's too early to grade the pick, just because, the Chargers are going to ease him into it. It's a good situation with the weapons the Chargers have. So we'll see in a couple of years, and I'm hoping that video will just prove me wrong.
I'm curious, Travis, as the two of us who, Schlossberg, obviously, the guys that know Pac-12 football, I'm tempted to go back to some of the standout Oregon quarterbacks of the past few years, the Marcus Mariotas, the Dennis Dixons. Those guys didn't really pan out in the NFL. I mean, Mariota's up and down, whatever you want to say about him. Herbert might be a better way to go if you're talking about a guy who wasn't necessarily a standout. Maybe he can develop that consistency that maybe he didn't have in the Pac-12 towards the NFL. He might have a better mindset for that.
Yeah, the scariest photo they showed last night was Herbert in an old Joey Harrington jersey, which is just not the vibes you want to be putting out there. But I think Herbert's built like the modern NFL quarterback that you want, somebody who's mobile, rushed for 3 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl game, his last game in LA. And again, he's got the arm strength. So he's got the tools. It's just a matter of developing. He doesn't have to be the starter day one. They can bring him along while they have Tyrod Taylor to be the bridge QB. So it'll be interesting. It's a new era for the Chargers. The Phillip Rivers is now a Colt, and Herbert's going to be this guy, hopefully, for the next decade plus.
I like it. Now, it's good that my team didn't have a pick in the first round last night, because our social media expert, Steven, his team had multiple picks. So let's take a look at his multiple reactions.
The 9th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select C.J. Henderson.
There it is.
You got
a cornerback.
Let me see C.J. Jaguars select Lavon Chason.
Oh my God.
2 defensive picks.
What is that? Yeah, Budish, I just want to thank you off the top for your boring night. Gave, some say, an exciting night for me. The way I look at it is the Jags have the most picks in franchise history, largely in part because of your Rams, which gives them the most opportunity to make me miserable than ever before. So, yeah, thank you for that. The picks, my reaction, obviously a little disappointed when you have explosive offensive weapons like Jury and Lamb still on the board, and we need everything. So I would have loved either of those guys, but the fact is that we were drafting for replacements in that first round. C.J. Henderson is replacing your now boy, Jalen Ramsey, and he's really the opposite of Jalen. He's quiet to himself. He's a good locker room guy. He's not as much of a naturally gifted corner as Jalen, but freakish speed, very athletic. So has the chance to be a career starter for us. And then Chason, again, we still had Jefferson there, who's the wide receiver at LSU. He would have been great with Chark, having both those guys on the same team again. But he was drafted as a replacement for Ngakoue, which the longer this goes on, it looks like Ngakoue isn't going to go anywhere. So it's just having the ability to have another pass rusher and the depth there helps us. So like everyone else said, I've slept on it a little bit. I feel a little bit better. But the Jags have a lot of needs, and we have a lot more to go after last night.
Yeah. It's a building process. It's room for improvement, and a lot of guys around there. Pretty exciting night, the Budish household for round one. Let's take a look at my reaction from the Rams picks.
What? Is it the second round yet? Go Rams.
Budish, looks like you had an exciting night. Hopefully you have a better night tonight. Schloss, what's on your mind these days?
All right, so I got two big thoughts about the draft overall. The first one, the two guys, Tua and Justin Herbert, they're going to be compared most likely for the rest of their careers. No matter how well each one does, how poorly each one does, they're picked right on top of each other. Number 5, number 6. You got a short lefty and a tall righty. Yesterday before the draft, I read an article on The Ringer by, I think the gentleman's name was Robert Mays, talking about big quarterbacks like Justin Herbert. And when I say big, I do mean size and stature, 6'6" and above. Herbert listed at 6'6", and it goes over about how these tall quarterbacks have a tough time developing in the NFL because, yes, they can see over the offensive lineman, but what their issues are is they never develop the quick twitch, fast muscles to be able to strike the ball downfield and get rid of it quickly. And it just got me thinking about who are the best quarterbacks in the NFL today. In my opinion, and everyone's opinion, Mahomes has got to be number 1. Lamar Jackson played, up in that level as well. And Aaron Rodgers is always going to be in the mix there. If those are your top 3, you can debate them however you want. Maybe you even want to throw Drew Brees in, but that furthers my point that you don't necessarily need a guy 6'5", 6'6". You need a guy who's accurate, who can move around the pocket a little bit like Mahomes, but can take off a little. We're not looking for a big-time scrambler. What we're looking for is someone who can make quick throws, smart decisions. They don't got to lean back and have a big, heavy throwing motion like we've seen Herbert, like we've seen with other Pac-12 busts like Brock Osweiler throughout the years. So that's going to be number 1 there. And Tua and Herbert, they're really going to be compared because they're in similar situations, organizations that, for the most part, for the past few years have been nothing but dumpster fires that are both in warm weather places that need fans in the stands. And they're going to do both of those things. Chargers, maybe not as much because who cares about them? They're in LA. They don't really have that natural fan base. Sorry, Travis, to break that to you if you didn't already know that for the past 31 years of your life. And the second take is this. I've talked about this before. We've talked about this before. With the wide receivers, there were 6 wide receivers drafted in the first round. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know everything about these guys. I know that a lot of them are speedsters. A lot of them perhaps run better routes than the others. There were only 6 offensive linemen drafted. It had me thinking to go back, take a look in history of time at the NFL and see who are these great receivers who won championships. And honestly, the best I've come up with is Jerry Rice, Tyreek Hill last year. He's a legit number 1 guy, whether you want to think about it or not. I know he has diminutive size at only 5'10", and Marvin Harrison. That's about it. So I don't know why these teams are going to draft these wide receivers so high. It's not winning you Super Bowls. Brady and all the Super Bowls he's won, he never won one with Moss. The best teams that he had of recent memory are with guys like Edelman, Amendola, short, quick guys, Deion Branch back in the day, David Givens back in the day. Guys around 6 foot, 5'10", 5'11", quick off the line of scrimmage, could run quick, precise routes, which goes back to the quarterbacks delivering accurate throws. It's not about throwing the ball 80 yards down the field. It's not about being the fastest guy who's running a 4.2. I know Tyreek Hill's at a 4.27 or so, but got to have accurate quarterbacks, got to have quarterbacks who can make quick throws, smart decisions. You don't got to be 6'6". Those are my 2 overarching thoughts on the draft.
Travis, you're going to let him say that about your Bolts like that, laying down? Come on, man.
Oh my God.
Man,
That was a public execution.
A complete dumpster fire. I mean, this is a team that did go 12-4 2 years ago and has all the makings of a team. I mean, for people who follow the Chargers closely, their biggest issue isn't talent, it's injuries. We always seem to have the injury bug hit our team worse than anybody.
All I hear is excuses from you. And even the Giants went 11-5 a couple of years ago, and they're an absolute dumpster fire, an even bigger one than your Chargers, admittedly so.
All right. Well, just to address your point of big quarterbacks, I agree with your point that, the days of, trying to draft the prototypical, Brock Osweiler type monstrous QBs is done. I think what's more important, though, than the quick trigger is the mobility. And that's what gives me hope about Herbert is he does have that mobility, which is rare to have somebody 6'6" who can move like him. So I think that buys you time. You don't have to necessarily be stuck in the pocket. If things aren't happening right away, you can get out, buy yourself another second and a half. So I think he's set up well. And with receivers like Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, 2,000-yard receivers coming back, he's got a top 5 tight end and Hunter Henry, a great receiving back in Austin Eckler. So I think he's got the weapons. It's just going to be a matter of getting that consistency under control. Very few people come out of college being ready to start week 1. And again, he doesn't have to be that guy since the Chargers have Tyrod Taylor on the roster. So I think let's just give it time. But I do think that you're right in that the days of big quarterbacks are over. And the trend in the NFL is definitely moving towards a more mobile quarterback brand.
Speaking on a point to your receivers, Schlossberg, I agree with you for the most part, except for the fact that a lot of these teams that have early draft picks that probably want a receiver that they can franchise or build a stadium around or build a team around, it's not always about, and I hate to say it because I am a guy that likes to win, it's not always about the winning. It's about selling jerseys and putting putting fans in the seats and making a splash in the draft when maybe you weren't doing that before. So I agree with you that there's a short list of receivers that have done anything, but there's a bigger list of receivers that have made millions for these teams going along that route. So maybe these guys are starting to think that those are the players that can do it.
Yeah, but the NFL is always going to be popular no matter what. And you know what really puts guys in the seats? Winning. I don't ever recall watching a Patriots game recently the past 20 years and seeing empty seats. I don't recall back in the day seeing some NFL film stuff with the Giants at Giant Stadium when they were winning championships and having dominant teams in the late 80s, early 90s. I don't recall seeing empty seats there. Win games, the fans will show up. It's the NFL. These teams just print money anyway.
Good point. Steven, your team seems to be right on that cusp of maybe wanting to compete. What do you think about it?
What do I think about Schloss's point about quarterbacks or my Jags sucking perpetually?
Either one, I guess.
I think Schloss is right. I think what we usually see with these trends in the NFL is the game trickles up from college, and we're seeing a lot more of spread offense, quick release quarterbacks succeed in college, and that's finally catching up to the pros. So I think there's less of a premium on size and more of a premium on quick release, pocket presence, foot agility, and how to read rush and to check out of it quicker. So that's why you're seeing smaller guys succeed at a higher level now. I'm just really upset for Travis, man. That was a vicious attack earlier. I just hate to see that violence on. It's a family program here, so I'm still shaken by
who has the better record between the Chargers and Giants this year?
My team is a disgrace. This is not about how good the Giants are. They're a joke.
It's hard to insult
no one
like a
cares about the
masochist.
Chargers.
It's hard to insult a masochist that just perpetually increases the fire on his own team, Travis. I don't think you're going to win that.
Oh, I know. That's my tactic. I respect it. Game recognizes game.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from a Jaguars fan because
I know
you've had a lot of years experiencing bad football down there with no one in the seats.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, it's interesting too. You comparing Tuba and Herbert being linked for life when the last two to be in that situation were Eli and Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, and I mean, Rivers. Honestly, that year 2004, you got Big Ben, you got Eli, you got Rivers. All three have had Hall of Fame type careers. I'm not pooping on Rivers at all. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's probably better overall than Eli. Eli just has the clutch, big time moments, and has the David Tyree catch, has the Mario Manningham catch to bail him out. And yes, it's receivers bailing him out. I get it. But these are not Hall of Fame type guys with Manningham and Tyree. These are blips on the screens as far as the history of wide receivers go.
Interesting. So we've talked about quarterbacks. We've talked about receivers. We've talked about linemen, Chauce's ridiculous Giants pick. Who were the big winners and losers from the draft in the opening night? Steven, I'll send it to you first.
I think the biggest winner and we'll pick a lot of big winners. But one that stuck out to me was Tampa Bay. They went up and they got their O-lineman to protect Brady. That was their big need there. That O-lineman, kind of like Schloss was saying earlier, works. Those four guys are all interchangeable. But, to go up there and get what a lot of people predicted to be the number one offensive lineman, you've already loaded up on weapons. I mean, I don't know how good Tampa's going to be that first year, but they're certainly helping their case, and that was a slick move by Tampa Bay. Biggest loser, it's got to be the Oakland. I mean, you give up Khalil Mack. You don't give up a player like Khalil Mack to get picks to just try and make sneaky dark horse picks. You deal a guy like Khalil Mack to get home run, sure, lockdown top 10 guys that are going to build your franchise around you. And I mean, they take Ruggs, who's not even the best wide receiver on Bama, let alone a top 3 wide receiver in the draft at that point. And then Arnett, a lot of guys, they didn't even have him going in the first round. So to me, it was Oakland, which the last few years just seems to be a calamity of a team. I think they're the biggest losers so far.
Travis?
Yeah, for me, the biggest winner are the Cardinals, getting somebody like Isaiah Simmons when they did. I mean, this is somebody who we've talked about could have gone 4 to the Giants. I even thought he might have been a pick to the Chargers at 6 when Tua was off the board. But he's one of these versatile kind of hybrid defenders, built a lot like my guy, Derwin James, who can play multiple positions, the beast. And so I think that's going to really help their defense. Which is the point of weakness now, given that they can move forward with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. For me, though, the biggest loser is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think the biggest surprise last night was not only the Packers taking Jordan Love, but moving up to take Jordan Love. Yeah. Before the draft, Rodgers gave an interview where he pointed out that in his 15 years of being the starting quarterback of the Packers, they've never drafted a receiver in the first round, and it was almost begging them to give him some help. And what do? They draft his replacement and put him on the clock. And this is what the Packers do. They did it with Brett Favre, drafting Aaron Rodgers to replace him. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out the next couple of years, because I don't think any of us really think that Aaron Rodgers is nearing the end, especially, given the fact that Breeze is still playing, Brady's still playing. I mean, you think Rodgers has at least a few more good years in him, so I don't get that pick at all.
Yeah,
I'm going to echo sorry, Steven?
I was just saying to echo the point that Travis making there. I mean, Breeze just got paid. How old's Breeze? 41, I think, or I mean, he's well into his 40s.
His 40s, yeah.
Yeah, Brady just gets this fat deal in Tampa, well into his 40s, in the twilight of his career. And Rodgers, still in his 30s, is probably looking at himself like, "What? Are you kidding me? Like, I'm in this conversation year in and year out, and you're drafting my replacement instead of investing around me." I mean, I think the loser are the Packers in that situation, because you think Rodgers is not going to be knocking around looking for deals after this? I mean that was pretty poorly executed last night.
I completely agree. That was my pick for the loser of the night was the Packers. Rodgers is only 36 years old. He was off an NFC title game appearance last year. You know what I mean? Like, where is the disrespect coming from the Packers? They made some real questionable moves the last couple of years, and now you're going to basically say to arguably the third, second best quarterback in the league, whatever you want to say, you're kind of getting too old for us. We kind of want to start looking at someone else. No, it's a terrible move from the Packers. For the chemistry factor in the team alone, let alone you could have absolutely gotten a good wide receiver that you really, really needed. Bad move. Big losers of the night, in my opinion. Schlossberg.
Yeah, I got to agree with the Packers point, because you need to get Aaron Rodgers, obviously, some players that are going to help him, whether it's an offensive lineman. But the winners, to kind of focus on positive here, has got to be the Cincinnati Bengals. They go and get their franchise quarterback. The Bengals are a franchise who have been, improperly kind of put in the same category as the Browns. They're not as big of a dumpster fire, if you think about it, as some of these other organizations. They don't move off coaches all the time. Marvin Lewis was there forever. They give people a chance. I mean, it's probably because Mike Brown, the owner of the Bengals, has been known to be very cheap, so he doesn't really want to pay 2 coaches at once. But that cheapness has kind of led him to be somewhat stable. I mean, think about it. They had Andy Dalton there for a while. He made the playoffs in 5 straight seasons. Before that, they had Carson Palmer, who, if injuries never came into play, he might have been a little bit better. Before that, yeah, there was some turbulent times, no doubt about it. But before that, they had Boomer Esiason, who led them to almost winning a Super Bowl. They were about 30 seconds away back in '89. And even Ken Anderson before that, who came before Boomer. So they've had a number of quarterbacks there, if you go back in time, who have started, 80, 90 games, give or take. They're not constantly going through coaches as much as you might think. So the Bengals are the winner there. They get Joe Burrow. I'm repping my Ohio University shirt. He's, of course, from Athens. I'm an Ohio University graduate. Not many people know that about me. I don't really rep that as much as I rep.
Wait, when did that happen, Schlossberg? We went to college together.
Correct. 2019, I'm an online graduate of the Ohio University. Not a lot of people know that about me. I don't really rep it. I went down there to campus once. It's a gorgeous place. Everything is green as can be. Nice community. Joe Burrow, definitely a nice match there for the Bengals, and Ohio, Southern Ohio kid staying in Southern Ohio. So, the Bengals are a winner. And also the final winner is the Miami Dolphins. They get to it. If they can keep them healthy, the warm weather, I think, should help a little bit down there. It works miracles for some of these older folks that go down there. Their skin looks great. They get a nice little tan. But in all seriousness, Tua going down there, the Dolphins finally have a quarterback that they've been searching for since Marino. No, Chad Pennington wasn't the answer in 2008, who finished in the top 2 in the MVP. Should have been the MVP, in my opinion, that year over Peyton Manning, who won it. But the Dolphins get their franchise quarterback, and they got to keep him healthy. And I think Brian Flores, the Brooklyn native, is kind of the guy who's going to get them in the right direction, which they've been kind of, fluttering for years outside of the one Tony Sparano year back in 08 with Pennington, like I just mentioned.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the winners and losers from the first round of the draft, but one thing that always is consistent is that GMs and owners are always winners, it seems to be. So I'll pose it to you guys. Travis, let's start with you. Who had the best setup, best crib, best place to draft their future stars?
For me, the most interesting one was Mike Zimmer, head coach of the Vikings. I don't know if you guys caught his cabin. A lot of dead moose on those walls. I mean, that guy knows how to hunt. And you talk about a lot of GMs and coaches flexing, with their views or where they were drafting. Zimmer went in complete different direction and is just going for the straight fear factor. So I appreciated that.
I like it. What about you, Steven? What do you think?
Kingsbury had a pretty sweet little setup. It looked like he was a James Bond villain or something. But I'm going to take my moment to point out Mike Vrabel's setup. I'm looking at the picture here. I don't know if you guys saw that. The head coach of the Titans. He had one kid in a unitard suit, another with a mustache and mullet and thigh-high shorts. And then in the background, if you really zoom in, there's a kid with the bathroom door open taking a dump. So that was, to me, the most beautiful moment of the draft last night. I hate the Titans. Anytime I can point out how idiotic and stupid of a franchise they are, I will. And nothing illustrates that quite like that one scene last night. So I'll probably make that my Twitter header at some point. It's beautiful. I loved it.
Lamb's, the receiver from Alabama, his girlfriend took his cell phone when he was about to get drafted. Was that it? I mean, to me, it seems like she's just trying to already see how many people are sliding into his DMs to try and get that, and he wasn't having any of it, so he took the phone right back, not letting anyone see that cell phone.
The best part to me about that video is if you look to Lamb's right, his mother does not like her at all. Like, look at the dagger eyes that she's giving her the entire time. You could tell that mama doesn't approve, which is hilarious.
The attire was an interesting choice for the occasion. Definitely decided to forego the business casual look.
Yeah. Steven, social media wizard, what do you got for us today?
I want to deviate a little bit from the draft, but still football related. Your boy Tom Brady put out a hilarious picture after the news of the official match between Tiggy, Peyton Manning, Mickelson, and Brady. The quote is, never had much of a hard time being the Colts or a Tiger, but don't see this time being much different. And it's this immaculate Photoshop picture of Tiger Woods and Peyton as children and Phil and Tom as the parents. It's hilarious. This is what these golf events were made for. It's going to a good cause. Originally when they did it was just Tiger and Phil straight up last year. They put it on pay-per-view. It was kind of a travesty. It didn't really try to market it as like a tail of the tape fight style thing. It was kind of a dud. So this is much better. And I want to, Schloss, the big golf guy. Schloss, first, who are you taking and what do you think of the event?
So I'm looking at these odds here, the Westgate Superbook out in Las Vegas. Apparently the teams are not 100% set in stone, but they're saying if it's Phil Mickelson and Brady, they're going to be the underdog at plus 130. Tiger and Peyton Manning's favorite at minus 150. Now, to me, it really depends on the course, because if you follow Phil Mickelson's career, he's not a guy that's going to keep the ball down the middle of the fairway. He likes to go on little safaris and adventures, as I like to call it, bust out that 64-degree wedge and hit some ridiculous flop shot. Lefties are kind of creative, so it really depends on the course where they're going to be. The prediction likely, you'd have to think, is it's going to be in your home state, Stephen, in Florida, probably somewhere in Jupiter, you'd have to think. Yeah, because that's just where the famous people, the celebs, go to play golf down there in that South Florida area. So to me, you got to wait till the course comes out. And, Tiger Woods has been playing pretty well. We obviously remember he won the 2019 Masters. So I think you got to just wait to see where the course is.
Travis, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, it's all about the banter between the two, and as being one of the maybe 14 people who subscribed to the first match. The one thing I did like about it was Phil likes to bet. I mean, that guy's got serious gambling issues, and you got to love somebody who's willing to put $100,000 on it closest to the pin shot. And so I think you bring in, two more high-paid athletes in Brady and Manning. There could be a lot of action in this rematch. So looking forward to that.
Budish, who are you taking? What's your pick?
I love the Brady Manning setup. I love the arguments, and I love between Phil and Tiger. But you give me anyone on Tiger's team, I'll take Tiger every day. I don't care who it is. You put me on Tiger's team, I think we have a good shot. Might be the only one of the four of us that has a hole-in-one. Schlossberg, you put one in the hole yet?
No hole. Definitely no hole-in-ones. I've come within 3 feet a couple of times. Does hitting a car count? No, I've never done
No,
that.
it doesn't. So anyone that you put on Tiger's team, I'm going to take Tiger no matter what. I just love the guy. So I think it'll be interesting. But yeah, it's definitely a real entertaining way and a good deviation for those guys to get away from the NFL for a minute. But fun social take. Now, speaking of these odds, Travis, I want to take a second here to revisit your picks and parlays here. How did it end up?
Let's not maybe, because it wasn't too great, and I apologize to all the viewers out there who put their hard-earned cash on my bets. Just to recap, started off with predicting Tua to the Chargers. Bob talked about that. That didn't happen. The second bet was CeeDee Lamb. The over and under was 12.5. Now, he ended up going 17 to the Cowboys, so the overs won there. I think Steven and Schlossberg took the overs there. But, what are the Raiders doing taking Henry Ruggs III before him? Everybody had CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy as their top wide receivers, and the Raiders going to raid and take the third best wide receiver on the board. So I take the L there. Not really my fault. And then last, a little bit of controversy. We had the over and under on the number of people shown in any given room was 9.5. I thought that was a lock. A lot of these guys are going to ignore the stay-at-home, shelter-in-place orders. And so as we were preparing for the draft, they cut to Tua and his family. And we have the video. We could play this. He had 11 family members there. I counted it out. But as Steven pointed out, the draft technically hadn't started yet. And by the time Tua was picked by the Dolphins at 5, I think 7 of those people had hid in another room. And there was only 4 on the screen. So I don't know how Vegas is scoring this. I'm going to have to go back and look, but I'm sticking with the overs one because at some point during that telecast, we saw 11 people on the screen.
Yeah, conventional wisdom would tell you that ESPN got on the horn with Tua and told him to cut it out, but it was actually Schloss and I sliding into the DMs and saying, hey, man, come on.
Yeah, you guys are also in the
I did see something where ESPN and ABC told all the people, all the prospective draftees to say, no, you can't have this many people in the room, and then they're not going to show them. Or maybe that was more what I'm alluding to, that they're not going to show them on the TV just because of how sensitive it obviously is with COVID-19. So that might have something to do with it.
Who got in the Raiders here between the two of you to make that sure they picked that dog awful pick? That was just terrible. But it's another day for another topic. Transitioning away as we start to wrap up the show for this one, I wanted to get away from the NFL. It's a cool moment because it kind of involves us all. On this day, historic sports kind of memory that we don't usually talk about. It's someone that probably we wouldn't discuss a lot. David Robinson in 1994, April 24th, like today, was going after the scoring title between him and Shaquille O'Neal, who at the time was on Steven's Orlando Magic. Came down to the last game of the year. Now, this is cool. Shaq was ahead by 6/100ths of a point. So the Admiral had to have a big game. He put up 71 points against who? Travis's LA Clippers. Now, Shaq had to respond with the game later. He had to put up 68, I believe, and he only put up a measly 32, meaning that the Admiral took his scoring title. Now, that would be a stat. 71 points in a game would be the most in a game up until my Los Angeles Lakers. Kobe Bryant came along in 2006 and put up 81 points in a game against the Toronto Raptors. Schlossberg, I was trying to think of a way while I was telling the story to involve you somehow, but I don't. So you were just alive. So that's how your team was involved.
Yeah, I'm a sad, pathetic Knicks fan. No way to get us involved in the mix here.
But kind of a cool thing, the Admiral, kind of known as always a team player, someone that, in my opinion, was someone that didn't get a lot of credit, kind of like the Tim Duncan, before Tim Duncan was Tim Duncan. Obviously, they played together. A guy that never really focused on individual stats, and to see him win the scoring title was something I didn't really ever get to focus on. So that was the on this day moment. Now, transitioning to my big take with the NBA in my head, Chris Paul came out and said that when the NBA is back, that the players, I'm going to get this quote right, are going to need 3 to 4 weeks of prep time, at least 3 to 4 weeks. I'm letting you know, and I don't think that the league would do it anyway, but if they were like, hey, you got 2 weeks and then we're going, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Whatever the amount of time is, just know that the players will have input to say so because we're the ones playing. That comes first. We don't ever want to put guys in a situation where the injury risk is higher than ever before. He went on to say some more, but that was pretty much the meat of the quote. I'm going to tread lightly on here because I don't want to get blasted like my take was last time, but here's what I think. I agree that injuries are always a super important part of the game. You need to take the precautions where they have been. However, with how load management and how the league is kind of shaped around that, I don't really buy the fact that with this time off, that you need that much time to get back into it. Now, I understand that you're going to need time to get into game shape and fitness and be ready to go. However, you're getting paid millions of dollars to play a game, and I will always say that at the end of the day, that's not a hard thing to do. I understand that it's a physically demanding. I understand there's a lot of pressure, but people are here and they need the sports back. And if I'm to understand what I think the most of the plans have been for the NBA, it's going to be, hey, we're back. Let's start the playoffs. Let's go. I don't think that there's any room to say that you need 3 to 4 weeks of prep time. And also, if you've been watching what guys like Russell Westbrook and even like Steph Curry or LeBron have been doing, these weight room efforts that they've been putting in are basically the extent of what they need to be doing to stay in shape anyway. So to me, 3 to 4 weeks is ridiculous. I would say 1 week to get up and get going, and then we start the playoffs. I don't know what you guys think, but that's my take.
Yeah, I'm going to hop in and just defend Chris, but for a completely different reason. I think we need 3 to 4 weeks, not so these guys can get in shape. I think by all accounts, these guys have in-home gyms. Teams have been sending them workout equipment. They've been doing, Zoom workouts together. But I think we need that time period because when the NBA starts up, whether it's with fans or without fans, they need the capacity to be able to test these guys almost every day, at least every week, to make sure that, it's not coming back, that we're not spreading the infection. And we're not there yet as a country. We don't have the testing capabilities. And so I think, giving the green light at the start of the season and then waiting 3-4 weeks allows the NBA to kind of have the time they need to put testing procedures in place to make sure that sports can return in a safe manner.
I think I don't think I'm going to defend or attack that point either way, but I will say what's probably on Chris Paul's mind is the fact that he's playing for a team that's right in the middle of a playoff contention. Your Lakers probably aren't overly worried about it because they're so favored, and a team that like the Grizzlies that knows they're probably not going to do anything, they're probably not going to make much noise either. But a team like OKC who could have a shot, they could be in the mix, yeah, they're going to take as much prep time as they want to be ready. But all these the favored teams or fringe teams probably don't care as much. But CP is within his right to say that. So yeah, I understand. But to me, that's why he's probably making this point.
Sauce?
Yeah, honestly, if I was the NBA, you have to be a little bit careful about when you're going to come back because you don't want to have 2 seasons affected, meaning you don't want to have this current season that we're kind of waiting to come back affected, and you don't want to have next season affected where the game quality is not as good or you got to push it back even further, and then maybe you might even have a shorter season than we're normally used to. So I don't blame him for saying, hold on a second, we need some time to prep. We need to get our bodies back in game shape. Yeah, you can do as much dribbling, shooting, weightlifting at home, but it's not the same thing as dealing with the competition of going at it every night or, 3 games in 5 nights, whatever it is, of competing against other people.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't disagree with the fact that they're going to need time to get back into game shape. I just don't think that we have enough time. I'm not saying that they greenlight it and then we just start playing right away. I'm just saying once it's greenlit and once it's safe time, that's when sports should start up again if we have this grace period. But I don't want to see, okay, let's play 3 or 4 weeks of the regular season again and then start the playoffs. I'm just saying that when the sports are ready to go, that's when it's ready to go. And when it's a safe, obviously, and secure time for people to come back. I don't even know if that means playing behind closed doors or going out there when everyone's ready to go. I don't know what that'll look. An interesting way to see how the landscape shapes and how the players all react to it. But I think that's a good stopping point for here. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see what happens over the weekend, and we'll come back. But Travis, I'll start with you if you have any closing thoughts.
Yeah, I hope everyone has a good weekend. Stay safe. Enjoy the last few rounds of the draft, and I'm sure we'll have some good takes next week.
Steven?
Thanks for having me, guys. Good luck to all your teams in the next couple of days of the draft. Enjoy the last dance on Sunday, and hopefully I'm not too hungover from drinking my sorrows away with the Jags' remaining picks. So I'll see you next time.
G-Man Schlossberg.
G-Man. Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts of this, I enjoyed the NFL draft last night. ESPN did a good job making it kind of seem like it was a normal draft for the most part. Can't wait to jump back on here next time, talk some more sports with you guys, and kind of get into possibly a top 10 NFL player list. So stay tuned for the next Isolation Play podcast.
I agree. I can't wait to see my team actually participate in the NFL draft, so hopefully we'll have some good picks there. But for now, we'll see what happens over the weekend. Can't wait to get with you guys next week. It's been Isolation Play. We'll see you again.